and you might have gone through some really hard things already, and just know that like that is not where it ends at all. And I'm here. I know we just met, but like if you ever need to talk about anything at all, like I just want you to know that like older women love being able to like just help with anything that's hard. And like I wish that I would have asked when I was younger. So just we're here. And
can I ask you a question? Can
Yeah.
you speak a little more into how you got out of an eating disorder?
Yes, I can. It was weird. It was long, but I can get into that. Yes, it was. So it started when when I was asked that question about reality. It was really funny. I was in Seattle. It's kind of like a grunge hipster scene, you know, and I was like really tried to follow the rules, really tried to like stay inside the lines. And I had this one girl in my art class, and I was talking about how like I was so frustrated with society and how like we have to like appeal to this certain standard of beauty, and I was like really angry about that. And she was just like, I can picture it like this day. She was like sitting there just all casual, just like she didn't care about anything in the world, and she was like, I don't live into that. And I was like, what? It's like, who are you? What do you mean you don't live into that? It's like, I thought everybody lived into that. I'm like, what do you mean you do not? How do you not? What? And she was like, where would I want? I was like, well, that sounds nice. So I got my dress-up box and started running around. But that was like such a crazy moment for me, because I realized that like she had a like completely different reality than I did, and it blew my mind. And so that started the exploration when I realized that there was something else. Then I graduated, and then I started. So I graduated with a degree in design. At that time, my confidence was so low. I did not think that I could get a job, because when you apply for a job, you have to have some ounce of confidence that like you could do the job, or that you're worthy of the job, or that it might be nice to have you at the job. I didn't think that about myself at all. I hated who I was. Everything was confusing to me. I did not think I was worth anything. But I knew I could probably make a cup of coffee for somebody. So I applied to every cafe within walking distance. And it was this, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Capitol Hill in Seattle. It's wild, so wild up there. But I found myself there. And there was this little bookstore. And in the very back of this little bookstore was this little cafe. And so I, scamper in there. And I applied for the job, and she was like, well, you don't have any cafe experience. And at this point, I had applied to so many cafes, and I was so desperate because I had rent that I needed to pay. I just graduated. I had no idea what I was doing with my life. And I told her, I was like, just give me a shot. Like, just give me a chance to show you that I can make a cup of coffee. Because that was the last thing I had. I was like, I think I can do that. And so I got the job, and that was really hard because I had been starving myself for, like, I don't know, 12 years at that point, and I was hungry. I was so hungry, and I was just starting to realize that like I could eat. And I worked at a cafe, so we had like delicious cookies, delicious crepes, like everything wonderful. And so I was learning how to cook at the same time, which was actually really beautiful because I was starting to develop an appreciation for food in a way that I hadn't before, because I learned how to make all these wonderful things. But it was strange because I was hungry inside in so many ways, like spiritually and emotionally, and just like hungry for a sandwich. And I would see people, they'd eat something, but then they'd throw it away. So I was taking these dish pits of food. Mind you, I'm starving. Carrying these dish pits of food to the back. There was chocolate cake in there. You know what I did? I ate that chocolate cake out of the dish pit. Gross. But it was so good. And I did that a lot. Like, I ate out of the trash can because I was so confused about food. I was so confused about what it meant to eat, what food was, what we did with it, what enough of it was. I thought it was weird that people were throwing away cake. I didn't understand that. I didn't know how you could, I didn't get it at all. So that was a strange season of my life. And I so I was there for a while, and then I got a job at Starbucks making coffee, and I wasn't getting enough shifts at my job. I wasn't making enough money to pay my rent by myself. I was running out of gas in my car. I was running out of food in my fridge. It was like bottom of the barrel at that point. And I was too proud to ask my parents for help because, to be honest, I was angry at them, and I didn't even know why. I was angry because they had done very well in life, and they had very high standards that I never thought I could meet, and I was angry that I could never be enough. And so I didn't ask for help at all. I was determined to figure it out on my own, which was good and bad at the same time, because sometimes we need to be humble, and asking for help is okay. But it is good to work on your own problems. But I remember I was standing in the shower, and I, again, was running out of gas and food, and I just prayed. I was like, okay, God, like, I applied for, like, a lot of different jobs, and I was like, you know, like, I know you know my situation, we both know what's going on here, and, like, I could see, like, things continued. It's not going to be a real positive, prosperous life for me and myself. And so I prayed, and I was like, you know, I need your help. Like, I need something, anything really. And, like, I don't know, a couple days later or something, a week later, I got a call from Starbucks corporate, and I had applied for a graphic design position there, and I got the position, which was wild to me because I was living bottom of the barrel, and then this job offered me a salary, a chunk of money promised each year. That was wild. I didn't have to fight for shifts or anything. It was just like this whole new, brand new life. And that was awesome. Financially, it was great. I could go to counseling, like, because at the cafe I couldn't afford it, and so I could get the help that I needed. I saw a nutritionist. Like, I was working with a lot of people to try and help me get back on track. But I was in the visual presentation department, which I was working with people who had worked at Vogue and fashion magazines, so that was a tricky trap because I wanted to fit in again. I wanted to be beautiful again. I wanted to be thin again. I wanted to prove myself again. So these people had houses, and I had just been eating out of trash cans, and so I felt like I had to put on this front that proved my worth. But, well, not but, so I became anorexic again. And before that, well, kind of during this time, I become bulimic, and I was eating, like, loaves of bread, you know, cake out of trash cans, all kinds of things. And so I went back to anorexia, and that was a tough road. So I was there, loved my job. It was awesome, amazing. It's what I had, like, dreamed of doing, but it was empty, and it was very shallow because I was putting so much more on this job. Like, it was defining my worth, and that's not what a job is supposed to do. They can give you confidence in a certain way, but it is not connected to who you are, not at all. And well, maybe a little bit, if you, I don't know, maybe a little, but it's not your worth. It's not your worth, definitely. But so I was there, and I had been dating someone, and he was going to move to Louisiana, and I thought that was a great idea to maybe do that too. I don't want to go to Louisiana. Like, me, normal Lauren, never wanted to go there. But because I was dating this guy, I thought maybe that'd be a great idea. So he was going to move down there. I was going to drive with him. So I took a week off of work, but he ended up not going. So I had this week off of work, and so I went on a vacation by myself. So I went to Hawaii, and it was amazing. I met with the pastor while I was there, and he offered me a job and to work with his high school students. And I was like, well, that'd be the craziest thing if I said yes. I'd never do that. But when do I start? And so he offered me the job, and I took it. I went back and talked to my boss, and she said I could go because I knew that there was something wrong in my life. Like, I had a job, I had a car, I had a boyfriend, I had all of these things that I thought I should, but it was still a very empty life, and I was just crumbs inside. and yet on the outside everything looked good, but on the inside it was hollow. And so that year was amazing. It was just like, it was kind of like a spa day for the soul, like for a whole year. And I got to just work at a church and be with high school girls who I love, and it was crazy because I was dealing with the same things that I was supposed to be helping them with. Like, they had issues with body image, and I was like, I still want to eat out of trash cans. I don't know if I can help you. And it was crazy because God uses the most unlikely people. You know, like people in the Bible, like those are real life people. Like Moses. Let's bring a full circle. Like Moses, and it's like he stuttered and was scared, but he used him regardless of like all of those fears, all of those insecurities, and yeah, so he used me there, which was wild. And I wanted to stay there. I did not want to move, ever. But I did. At the end of the year, I moved back, and that was that. And that time that I was living by myself in Seattle were the two hardest times, because coming back, I had to face all the things that I had been like dodging in my life, and so it's been hard, but it's been good, because here, like, I've overcome anorexia, I've overcome an eating disorder, and what the last piece in the eating disorder was, so I was bulimic still when I was in Hawaii, and when I came back, I thought I was healthy, but throwing up, even though you're eating, isn't healthy. It seemed better to me, but that wasn't health. I just didn't know what healthy was at that point. And so I moved into this little house where I rented a room, and the lady said, she's like, I told her that I had an eating disorder. She's like, well, you know, if you need to throw up, you can go to the fields outside and across the street, but you cannot do it here because I have an old septic system. And for some reason, that did it for me, because I had gotten to the point where, like, I didn't really want my eating disorder anymore. Like, I really didn't want to live that life. But I was still kind of hanging on to it. But I didn't want it enough to do it outside across the field much. You know, it was like, I didn't really want it. So I was like, at that point, like, I was ready to let it go. And she gave me the opportunity to choose to let it go. You know, it wasn't like, because sometimes if someone tells us, like, don't do that, like, we still will do it because we're human and we're stubborn. But she's like, well, you still can, but she kind of put certain blocks in the way, and that I didn't want it anymore. And so I've been recovered since that point. That was like 4 years ago. And yeah, and so now it's just the learning how to have relationships and be healthy about it, and like be strong and confident and say what I need and be graceful and listen to what other people need. And yeah, so it's been a journey, but it's good, even though it's messy.
I have a question for you guys, but first I want to see if any of you have a question for Lauren. Any questions?
I think questions are hard to ask when it's a life story.
Okay. So Lauren mentioned magazines because we grew up in a time before social media.
Oh, I guess that's
So
true.
we had to read magazines
That's
to see what
true.
other people were doing. So now in your life, where would you say that young women your age get all the lies about what they should look like? What do you guys turn to, or what do you see your friends turning to figure out that system that we're supposed to subscribe to?
Social media?
Yeah. There's a lot of social media.
Do you have to look for it, or does it just show up in your feed without
just
you
shows
reaching
up.
for it?
Shows up.
Everywhere.
School too, I mean, like.
Definitely.
I don't have it at school.
There's no. They're my homeschoolers.
Oh, good. Yeah.
But you have it. You still have it in your life, because we all have that in us. And I loved what you said about you had it all, because don't we all have that thought of this list of we'll be worthy, we'll have it all together when and you did. You
Yeah.
finally got it, and
And
it's just as bad as when you didn't.
yeah. Yeah, and it was shocking to me to realize, like, oh, this is like, ugh, that's what I was, there's gotta be more than that. Like, isn't there more than that?
So our heart is, all the way through Exodus, we've been seeing God's, how he is working in the background when it doesn't feel like it, when it doesn't look like it, how he is passionate about his people's freedom and works it in his own mighty hand in his own difficult timing sometimes, which we can hear that in her story. So I don't think any girl is immune to the things that we've been talking about, and you have some stuff, some
Yes.
like hands-on kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
I do. So I don't know how long do we
We
have?
have like 8 more minutes.
8 more minutes? Okay.
Yeah, I got my kit. Hold on. Okay. Before you go, I'm gonna pass out these cards because you might not have the chance to go to the bathroom and write me a note in our little thing. So I'm gonna give you each a card, and then is that still recording even though it's low battery?
Yes, it is. 'Cause it's still.
Okay. I'm gonna pass you each out a card, and so you can just like write a joke or draw a picture if you're not interested. But if you want to meet with me or Darcy, if you've been before and you know Darcy, with Lauren or with Meredith who was here before, you can write that on the card. And then Lauren's gonna talk about this other thing that she knows about, a hands-on thing for us if we want to learn more about how we can have a healthier body image, how we can have a better sense of worth in who we are in Christ. And if you're hearing this and you're like, this is exactly what my heart needs, will you make a note on that on there, because we can either start a separate group for that, or if a lot of you are feeling like that, we can pull that in. We can push pause on Exodus and do this for a little bit and come back. So here's some pens. Does everyone have a pen? So Carlene has a landline. It's old school.
I got a landline too.
I wish I had a landline.
It's
So
really handy.
go ahead and write your name on that, and while she's describing the kind of thing that she has, you can write any notes or questions, or if you want to meet with anybody, and then check yes or no if this is something that you're interested in. Okay, go.
So I'll give a little like intro to what this is,
Yeah.
and then I have some like little facts that we can talk about. It's kind of like set up like different sessions, so I'll just give like a little intro. So this is called the Body Project, and it's with the National Eating Disorder Association. But what it is, it's trying to the course isn't about eating disorders. It's not focusing on like, if you have an eating disorder, you take this course. If you don't. This is really like Stacy said, just about like, as women who have social media, who are a part of social media, we are told lies every single day, like in the images, in the content that we see on TV, everywhere. So this is really just trying to kind of catch it before a wildfire starts. It is kind of like Meredith mentioned tools in the toolbox. Like, it is giving you ways to push against the messages that we hear. It's ways to shift how you see yourself, how you see your sisters, how you see your mom, how you see your friends. It will give you courage to talk to people who are talking negatively about themselves. You know, it's like, really, I think any person who's a person could take this course, because it's important. Like, we come across negative self-talk, well, probably 90% of the time. I mean, the things we say to ourselves in our heads when we make a mistake, or when we're having like a crazy hair day or something, like, we do not need to say those things to ourselves. And like, why do we say those things to ourselves? Like, that can stop. And like, this isn't, the course doesn't talk about Christ, but I'm going to talk about Christ because I love Christ and he saved me and rescued me from all of this. And so Christ doesn't want us to have those thoughts about ourselves either. Like, he loves us. That is written everywhere in the Bible. And he wants us to have that same perspective about ourselves and then to others. So anyway, this, some little factoids that we can talk about here, just to give you like a little snack about what the class is like. So let's see, let's talk about social media, since you brought that one up. So this is a little fact here. So 2015 Common Sense Media survey found that many teens who are active on social media fear how they're perceived and that girls are particularly vulnerable to this. So they found that 35% are worried about people tagging them in unattractive photos. 27% feel stressed about how they look in posted photos. 22% felt bad about themselves if their photos were ignored. Do you guys have worries about that? I know I do even still, and I'm trying so hard to not think about those things. Do you guys think about what boys think of you? Raise your hand. Or
Sure.
don't. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a real thing. And, like, in the dating world, like, it's can be brutal in our minds, like, about how to navigate that. And, like, there's, like, 1,000 things I want to say about that, but I'm trying to keep it into a nugget. But, anyway, social media can tell us all sorts of crazy things. And this is really just to bolster you in your heart, in your soul, in your mind when you're scrolling through pictures. Like, really, it's just like how to build a shield, really. Because we can all use it. I mean, I'm very aware of this, but yet I need a reminder on the daily about this. So, yeah, I don't know if there's more you'd like me to dive into.
Great. I think as long as you know that we have tools that together we can all put in our toolbox so that we don't feel like we're just sucking in all the lies and not even realizing it. Because usually you don't wake up in the morning thinking, I'm going to check Instagram so that I know who I should be. But it happens. That's what we end up taking away from it. And so just that we can have that discussion together and be mindful of it and have some tools in our toolbox. So check yes or no on your note card, and you can fold them up and put them in this Kleenex box. Classy,
I hope
huh?
you say yes, because I really want to come back, because I've been praying for you guys. I've been praying for a group of girls that I could, like, share this with. So if you said no, please say yes. Tell your friends.
Okay, so let me pray for us. I'll turn this off so Darcy doesn't have to.